Hello, Scorpio. Thank you so much, as always, you guys, for being here. Okay, Scorp, so looking at your first week of December, you pulled Resurrection, Abundance, and Today for Tomorrow. This was a powerful one. So, first of all, Resurrection, when you're talking about the comeback that's happening, this is also time for you to actively explore what you have always denied yourself the chance to do. It says that there's a path clearing before you, and it requires enormous amount of determination on your behalf. This is needing to have the willingness here to do what is necessary to create this abundance. But what I feel like is happening here is that there's been like these sacrifices that you've been making in the present moment in order for things to be better tomorrow. But you may have been sacrificing so much of yourself that there's now a need for the rising from the ashes, this resurrection, right? But abundance, this to me really spoke to, the typical Scorpio nature of either black or white. It either exists or it doesn't. And for you, I think that the material world, yeah, that's great and all, but it's like those things will work themselves out. The type of abundance that we're talking here is spiritual in nature. It says, in this materialistic age, it is common to mistake the measure of success and worth through the possession of money and status alone. There is nothing wrong with aspiring to have lovely things or to create the security and opportunities that money can buy. However, Western values generally encourage focus solely on the outward physical manifestation of abundance. It says we can be guided to find a healthy balance by focusing inwardly to discover spiritual riches available to us in every moment. So this resurrection, I think, is happening for you in a very deep spiritual way with abundance, right? Abundance in all forms. It's not just the physical manifestation. But it is because of the sacrifices that you have been making in the material sense that there, I think, has been a lack of feeling that type of soul fulfilling abundance. I like today for tomorrow, but there's also the understanding there that, there's only so much of yourself that you can continue to sacrifice just to make sure that things continue to stay like in homeostasis, if that makes sense. Like, we don't want things to change or to get worse. So in order for things to stay the way that they are, I have to sacrifice the things that I have been wanting. So I feel like a lot of you have been, experiencing this lack of abundance. But the thing is the material, right? Like that stuff just works itself out. So for you, the focus isn't solely on, gaining all these material things. It's really about, what is the value and the purpose of it in the first place. And that, I think, is going to open the door to this like spiritual abundance that's coming through. Where, there isn't this feeling of needing to sacrifice anything anymore. Because there's the feeling of doing it for the benefit of others and not just for things to be okay in the future. You're overall the Seven of Wands, so speaking up for yourself and standing your ground and facing some oppositions when it comes to your position, your beliefs. But this is, it has a very powerful feeling of, I am not allowing these things to knock me down anymore. Now, where I have been silent, I am going to make sure that my voice is heard. In the past, the Nine of Cups, so you may have been focusing on the things that you want, the wish fulfillment, right? The things that will bring you that emotional happiness. For some of you, this is experiencing your wishes being fulfilled, but there being this kind of like opposition to what you are wishing to experience, where there's this need for you to speak up, right? But I like that the Nine of Cups is coming through, because abundance, if we're talking about abundance, right? This is getting to experience the abundance of emotional fulfillment. But you're wanting to nurture that and continue to make that grow. The Empress in the present moment. And again, it kind of goes back to this feeling of sacrificing parts of yourself for things to be good for everybody around you, but there's something lacking within you. And that's kind of like where you're taking this stand. But this is powerful, right? When it comes to manifestation and abundance, we're talking about the 3 here. Whatever you nurture will grow, and it will grow exponentially. But this could also be you being more nurturing to yourself and what your wants and desires are. And I think that you are coming from a very clear understanding of what this looks like to you now. You know, we all kind of go through those changes where we start to look at the things that we've been wanting and start asking ourselves, is that really going to bring me the happiness that I want? But you're clear on that now. You're coming in with knowing what you want because of past experiences, and the potential for the abundance is enormous with her being there in the present moment. Okay, so future conditions, the Two of Cups. This may be where somebody that you are close to needs to really hear where you are coming from, so that you know whether or not this is what you want to continue to nurture and to grow. But what you're wanting here is this kind of nurturing, compassionate, loving relationship, this understanding, this connection. But the focus on the relationship and you making your voice heard is going to be important in future conditions, especially if you have been sacrificing a lot of yourself to make sure that, you know, things stay happy, stay abundant. But what about you? When is it your time, right? And I kind of go back to that feeling of the comeback, the resurrection. But the focus on the connection that you have with somebody or relationships in general is going to be important in future conditions. And important in that it's important for the other person to understand exactly where you stand and where you're coming from. But there is no confusion when it comes to what you are wanting. What you need from this relationship to have that kind of like emotional fulfillment that you're willing to continue to nurture. I don't know what is going on this week, but there have been plenty of signs that have been pulling their own energy. So you, as your best path to follow, transformation, right? But the death, the old way of being, all of the things that you have experienced that have created this kind of change have left you in a place of focusing more on exactly what you want and what is going to create that kind of emotional fulfillment. But, you know, again, rising from the ashes. It is the ending of one way of being. Something new has to come through. And, you know, of course, Scorpio understands that energy better than anybody else. I mean, you know, sex, death, and rebirth, that is the cycle. And for you, you're talking very specifically about the rebirth that's happening. But how things were can no longer stand. That is, it's definitely something that needs to be buried, you know, when we're looking at death here. But a huge transformation where you're not backing down anymore. in your environment, the Six of Swords, you know, and again, right, like the feeling that I'm getting from this is that the difficulties that you have faced in the past that are creating this kind of like need for resurrection and coming back from those experiences, it's put you in a focus on having your wishes fulfilled in such a way that you're very aware of what you are willing to nurture and grow. And there are things that I think you have dealt with that have been extremely difficult for you, where you have had to really make some inner changes in such a way where you're not responding the same way that you would have before, because here you're standing up for yourself. And this is, I'm done with the conflict. It's time to move into a more calmer situation. And that is all you are focused on as far as what you're willing to grow. Your experience has to change. There needs to be more of what you are wanting manifesting in your life, rather than having these moments of thinking, well, this is what I want, but then it ends up creating this kind of conflict where you need to move on because you need something that's more calm. Now, this may be you though, and I kind of go back to today for tomorrow. Let me slow down here. So when we're talking about sacrificing a part of yourself in the present moment so that things can be better in the future, that is coming from a place within you that has the ability to grow into abundance, whatever it is that you are wanting. The problem is have you been focusing on what your wants are? There's this huge change that has to happen. The way things were before, and this part of you that sacrifices so much of yourself for others, it can't stand anymore because you're not having your needs met here. But this isn't like a Five of Pentacles type of thing where you're like purposely being pushed out. This is realizing that the sacrifices that you've made have changed your viewpoint on what you're wanting. But if you were seeing it currently, you wouldn't feel the need to kind of like speak up like, hey, this is what I need from you now. I've given as much of myself as I possibly can, but I can't stand anymore because it's creating too much conflict. Wow, man. Your hopes and your fears, the devil. And death being your advice would make sense, right? We can't continue these kind of patterns that create this unhealthy type of energy where we're addicted to doing the same things over and over again. And the negative pattern here may be that you're more concerned with fulfilling the wishes of others because you have the ability to do it. The problem is here is that it's created too many issues. I feel like you're done with all of that. It just, it's not important anymore. It's something you need to move away from. But the devil, right? Like, it makes me wonder how many times you have repeated this type of pattern. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be for all of you. This is going to be very specifically for the Scorpios who feel like they have done so much for everybody around them, but really haven't had their own wishes fulfilled. And I feel like what you're wanting here is just some peace. I just want some peace. And then coming out, the King of Cups, interesting. So, in connection with the relationship here, I feel like if this is what you are going through, there may be somebody who understands you and where you're coming from. Now, obviously here with the King of Cups coming out, we could also be talking about you coming out of this with a more mature understanding of where your emotions are driving you in terms of what you are wanting, what you are craving emotionally. But I feel like because of the Two of Cups being here, we're talking about somebody who cares and actually understands where you're coming from. But that's only when you start to speak up about the opposition that you have been facing that has created this kind of conflict where it's done. It has to be done because it is a pattern that has left you longing for some emotional fulfillment. And this may be finally, this kind of like understanding coming through. Jeez, man. So the Seven of Cups, Temperance, and the Hierophant. The Seven of Cups, when we're talking about having wishes fulfilled, for you, it may have felt like everything that you have been wanting that you feel like is going to bring you happiness never materializes. That's what I'm getting from this. But this may be because for you, you haven't had this kind of like platform or position to finally start speaking up about, hey, this is what I need. But it's like all the things that you thought were what you wanted, I think that there's this realization here that they're just not happening, or they're not being realized. And there may be somebody who is understanding that, and that may be what you're voicing. And this may be the kind of compassion and understanding that you're needing from someone in particular. But once you speak up, it's like there's a better understanding emotionally of the connection that is happening between you and someone. Now, you may be looking at a completely new relationship here once this abundance of a spiritual awareness comes through. And again, this clarity of what you're actually wanting, it's like, boom, there it is. Nope, can't have these same patterns anymore. I'm tired of having to move on from the same bullshit. And then with Temperance here and looking at the Empress, right, this is reserving yourself, holding yourself back. This is the counterbalance to the Devil. The Devil, we give into those obsessions, those addictions. And with Temperance, there's the understanding that it's not healthy. And there's a need for internal balance to start taking place. But I think that, again, peace, like I'm needing peace. And that is what you're willing to nurture and to grow here with the Empress. But then with the Hierophant, right? Big, huge commitment. Listen, if you are going to come at me and you're going to act like you understand where I'm coming from and what I've experienced and what I've had to move on from, right? Like, don't half-ass it. If you're going to make a commitment, do it all the way. This is the strong commitment. I don't think we're talking about conformity here, but spiritual understanding in huge abundance, but it has to do with the emotional connection that you have in relationships that have left you in a place where you can no longer repeat the same patterns, whether it's within an existing relationship or with something new coming through. If it's something new coming through, it's like, listen, I take shit like this seriously. I'm no longer willing to invest my emotional effort into things that are not going to be realized. I'm tired of fantasizing about how, much better things could be. Like, I need that to happen now. And that may be where this, resurrection is coming through. But wow, man, powerful, powerful cards. You have believe, live from your heart. It's interesting. I'm asking the question, what else, in my mind, and the cards are just like, here you go. Balance, yeah. And temperance, very much so. And then there's birth. So believe that if you continue to live from your heart, it will create the balance and the peace that you're looking for. But it is also going to birth something new, right? But it comes out of the ashes of what, you can no longer continue to be a part of. The old way has to die. It has to be over. But birth, and then looking at the Two of Cups and the King of Cups, this could be the birth of the connection or the relationship that you are looking for. And again, it doesn't matter if this is a new thing that's happening for you or if this is an existing relationship. And it doesn't matter what the relationship is. What is important here is the emotional understanding and the connection that is made based off of you speaking up. Meditate and contemplate. And then confidence is your key to success. So giving yourself a moment here to meditate and live from your heart, right? And to believe that things can change, things can be different. But having confidence in yourself to be able to create that kind of success. And I think that once that starts to come through, that's where we're going to see the Seven of Wands. Or finally speaking up, especially for those of you who have been sacrificing what you are wanting just to make sure that everything else around you just stays okay. I think this is where we can't do that anymore because it's become unhealthy. Because it really, really is about you getting what you need, what you've been wanting, that emotional fulfillment. Like, I'm feeling it in my gut, and confidence is key to your success. And looking at the Empress, this is you in the present moment. The ability that you have to create abundance is unlimited with her being there. But it's all about what you choose to nurture. And if you are nurturing yourself and what you are needing within a connection, then that is where this is going to stop. The same type of patterns that leave you in places where you're needing to constantly move on from conflict. It's time for there to be peace. And no longer fantasizing about things that aren't happening, are not realistic. We're not going to waste the effort on relationships where somebody else isn't willing to see things the same way, to want to manifest or create those beautiful options that may be there within a relationship. But again, it's all about you speaking up